Hello, my name is Apple of Doom, and welcome to another Geometry Dash video. I think I finally finished the layout. I hope. Oh my god, it's been driving me crazy. And we're gonna show you everything I've done in this week's update video. So if you haven't already, I highly recommend checking out the other videos in this series. They will go through the building of the level in a lot more detail in the previous parts, because I'm jumping right in to the new parts I've done now. So to get a reference of how it's been going, I highly recommend you check out the other videos in this series. You know, I'll have it up in the top right corner right now. So let's get going. So to start us off, I have actually fixed up this whole section here. So if you remember in last week's video, this part wasn't working quite properly because I wanted to have like static like this appear. Turns out I put it all in the wrong group, which is why it wasn't working, because I'm stupid. But I actually fixed it up and added in a transition. So if I go right back to the start, what I can do is disable the randomness and enable path as Z. And so I'll show you how it looks in normal mode. So what I wanted to do is kind of have a smoother transition between kind of this section and the pathways. So if I play this through, you can see it kind of does that. I think that looks awesome. And now each section has a nice bit of TV static indicating which one is going to be next. I think it makes it a little easier to read. I know I've got a bit of a bias because I'm the one who kind of made it and have been playtesting it. I kind of understand where everything should be, but I hope that reads is a lot more playable, and I also added a transition between these sections as well. And so now this section behaves as intended, which I think is a lot better. One thing I do have to say though is between all of these different sections I've been doing, I've actually been making them in a different level. So if I go back to the levels I'm kind of working on, you can see I've got two different levels which I've basically been just using for playtesting. And so I'll map out a section, you know, add in all the parts and all the sync sounds good, but as soon as I add it into the main level, it kind of desyncs in a weird way, and I'm not quite sure how to fix that. I know a lot of it kind of feels like very, very slightly off, especially the first path we did, which is path X. And I'll just show you the transition between each of the paths while I'm at it, just to show you what I've been doing. So I'll show you how I did the transition for this part. So you can see I've got this TV static here. Basically what's happening is when you're all the way back in the beginning section here, this is kind of the last area you're in. And so if the randomizer decides you're going on path Z, it'll activate these triggers here. And so this will make it static on 976, which is the guide we have here. Right here. And so essentially what's happening is it's moving to this part and then zooming it out, and then the player moves in. So it's all a bit of camera trickery, because what's happening is the level has, you can see it here, it has this border around it. So essentially what I'm doing is I'm having that border replicated in a different space and having the camera warp on it. So it looks like it hasn't changed at all. Because if I have an exact replica of what this looks like all the way over here, you're not going to notice that it's different. You're going to think, oh, look, it's the same thing. It's just doing a cool transition. I hope this is making sense. Basically, it's all camera trickery, and I think it ends up looking very cool. Now, I'll also show you the transitions I've been working on for the other parts. So if I go back to here, I'll disable this and just enable group X, and I'll show you how that looks. With these other two paths X and Y, I found it a little bit trickier to transition between them, just because they don't have, you know, like a clear visual like path Z does with all its different TV screens. So all I did was have it fuzz in and fuzz out. It kind of looks a little awkward. I want to fix it, but I don't know how I should fix it. So if you guys have any, you know, advice or ideas on how to fix it, let me know in the comments. That would be greatly appreciated. But I also added a transition between the two halves of path X. I think that syncs with the music incredibly well and helps give it a better vibe. Now, of course, I need to add a lot of stuff into the background and do a lot of detail work, but for now, I think this is looking pretty alright and pretty finished. And finally, I've been saving this to last, I'll show you group Y, because I actually finished it and added some extra gameplay, and I hope you guys will like it. So the transition is relatively similar. It's a little janky, so hopefully I'll be able to fix it in the future. So right here is where it will change. Has the same transition, and now we've got gameplay coming up from the tops and bottoms, and this flows surprisingly smoothly. I'll show you how it functions in a second, but it's pretty much enabling and disabling the gameplay for each section as it goes through. Basically, all these little chunks are getting warped down pretty much the same as the rest of the level, but what's happening is I've got these option triggers down here that'll disable and enable different controls. So you'll have the first player come up from the bottom, do its thing, come down, the second player come up from the top, do its thing, go back up, and then so on and so forth. So it kind of swaps between the two, and there's not a lot of room for error because the game automatically disables your controls, so you can't really mess anything up. So the gameplay ends up being quite nice and smooth. But this isn't actually all I worked on. If I go back and play it normally, there's an extra bit I've added, or rather, 2 other extra bits. So at the end of any section, there'll be a bit of a cutscene before it hops into the finale, or like the ending section. Now, this is the second of the 2 endings, and you can see it's very spaced out, very floaty. I really want this to like take place in maybe like space or something. And this will be like a very nice ending, and then it'll fade out into the end screen. So the end screen, I want it to be like a lot of the other ones that have been in, you know, gauntlets and event levels, for example, where it will have, you know, the different inspirations, play testers, the hours, objects and groups, the seed, the random gauntlet logo, and I'll have it fade in and out. Now, let me show you what inspires me the most. So here I have this level, own display by El Mardo Swag. I've shown this off on my channel multiple times because I absolutely love this level. It's honestly one of my favorite levels of all time. But the end screen does something really cool and unique that I kind of want to do in my level. So you have the little cube dude jumping out of the TV screen, and then it fades into this really cool end screen here, where it has the TV in the center with all the playtesters on the side, the creator of the level info, and the gauntlet that it was part of. This was part of the NCS gauntlet. So I want to do something that's kind of similar to this, but if you can imagine it, imagine the screen using the TV static I came up with earlier to switch between all this sort of information. I think that could be a really cool idea. So that's what I want to do kind of going forward. But as I alluded to, that's not the only ending. I've split up the endings into E and F, basically like, you know, ending, finishing, whatever. So if I disable the randomness and enable the first group, I'll show you what that looks like. So once again, I kind of want to add a cutscene to the ending of each of the paths we made in the previous couple of videos, but then it'll warp to this part. Now, it's not perfect. You would have seen there's a very weird transition that happens into this part that I literally do not know how to fix. So I'm gonna need to get you guys' help. But other than that, I wanted this to kind of be like a nice fade out. And then, of course, the end screen. So with this final ending section, for some reason, I don't know whether it's because I'm using an exit static or something to that effect, but the camera will like swoosh in. It won't immediately warp to the player right here, and I'm not quite sure why. I'll probably just play it in slow motion over the top of this, but it's really bugging me how it will move into place instead of snap into place. Is that a problem caused by not having a guide that it automatically statics to? Is that a problem with like having it exit static instead and be on top of the player? Let me know down in the comments. I'm not perfect. I don't have all the answers. I'm just building this for fun. So if you guys have any idea on how to fix that, please let me know. But now you've seen the 2 endings. We've got this very basic one and the very floaty one over here. Essentially what's happening with this floaty one is this was a lot more difficult to put together. I've basically got all these different chunks of level that will warp to these little circles here. So basically if you get, say, option 1 into another option 1, it'll warp this whole section up to the beginning here. So I've used this in a different part of the level already, the kind of second half of the first opening section, and it's not too hard to pull off. If you're wondering what the triggers are, basically we've got an advanced follow on this little object here, which has group 1096, as you can see here, and essentially the camera will static onto group 1096, slowly rotate around it with a little bit of offset so that the player stays perfectly centered with a very low gravity. So what's basically happening is as soon as you hit this point, which is the start, the camera will warp to the player and rotate around it. And I'm hoping to have, I don't know, a bit of a spacey background behind it. I was kind of inspired by that one part in Berserker, or I think there's a number of other levels that have done it, but I can't think of them off the top of my head, but you'll know what I mean. And so that's basically what inspired me to do this second ending. Because this is a lot more spaced out and I guess kind of somber, I don't know whether I want this to be random or whether you can trigger this through some sort of method in the level. If you guys have any ideas on whether this should just be, you know, a random save second option you get to increase the replayability of the level, or whether you should have some sort of thing in the level to trigger this entire section, please let me know, because I think that could be a very interesting way of going about it, but I don't know how or why that would work. You can also see this part really messes up the duration lines. Like, what on earth is happening here? Why is it doing that? One other thing you might have noticed is I've got these three triggers here. I've got a collision trigger, which is set to when the player collides with block ID 1, it will activate group 1101, and that'll teleport the player. So basically what's happening is, because these are all randomized sections, they won't have the same endpoint. So instead I've used collision blocks, and what these have is they all have block ID 1. So this one's for the second group and this one's for the first group. So once you finish one of these sections, you'll hit this and teleport it, because you can't have a teleport trigger teleport you, because these are all going to have randomized, start and end points. Maybe it ends here on one time and ends here on the other, because it's, completely random. If you have the teleport trigger here, you can't move it. You can't move it using move triggers, but you can move collision blocks. So basically, I'm just moving the warp point by using collision blocks instead of the trigger itself. So that's a little cheeky, little smart way of getting around it. I'm not sure if there are any other use cases for this specifically, but if you ever need to do that, there you go. You're welcome. I do have to say this level has a stupid amount of bugs at the moment. The layout isn't 100% complete. You'll see if you have, for example, like the spider here, if you're playing through this, you might be able to just warp up here and fly out of the level. It's not completely, play approved. And I think that's all right for now, because I've just put the layout together and I want to get to decorating. I've got like basically just over a month to finish this, which is not enough time. And I'm really hoping RobTop extends the deadline of this competition, because this is getting ridiculous. But for now, I think I'm just going to leave the layouts as they are. The one thing that really bothers me is the sync, and I don't know whether it's because I'm using song triggers like here. For example, I've got one here that will prep the certain position of the song here and then play it. I don't know if there's a bit of lag involved in that or something, or whether I should put it at the start, or I don't know, something like that. But either way, it's really messing up the sync just ever so slightly. It's like a fraction off from where I've played it. So if you guys have any ideas on how to fix up the sync when it comes to that, then please let me know. The other thing is I've had to touch trigger and spawn trigger 5 million things, because basically the player's warping all over the place. You could be here one moment and then you're here the next, and then all of a sudden, oh, you're over here. And because of that, you're accidentally activating all the groups associated with like this section, for example. It's an absolute nightmare to try and get it to all work, and it's been making me absolutely crash out. I've been losing my goddamn marbles. So if you guys have any ideas on how to fix that as well, that would be appreciated, because you guys have come up with some good ideas in the past and I've used them, and I appreciate that. The last thing I want to talk about is, over the past couple of weeks, I've been asking what we should name this little guy here. So I've been getting some suggestions in the comments, and they've been alright, but I think I know what I want now. I want something that's an acronym. I want this guy's name to stand for something, because it's a computer, and computers have all sorts of acronyms, like PC, for example. That's personal computer. So maybe this could be like happy, and happy stands for something, or Roby, and Roby stands for something. I have no idea. I'm just spitballing. But I eventually want this guy's name to be the name of the level. So it'll be very important into the future. So if you guys have any ideas on that, please let me know down in the comments. I know I've asked a lot from you guys this episode, but it's because I am struggling a lot. Please help me. Anyways, other than that, up here I've added in all the triggers for the new endings and such. They'll be alright. And going forward into the future, I want to kind of lay out the ideas for some of these. For example, in this end section, I want there to be, screens in the background that play random things. Maybe it could be the ending of a level, or a reference to like a YouTuber like Vortrox or Nexus or something like that. So there's a lot I still want to do, but this takes a lot of time, so we'll see when I get that done. I actually don't know what I'm going to do in the next episode, so I guess I'll just pick something and start working on it, because we're finally out of the layout stage and into the design stage. Finally. It's taken this long. But anyways, that's that's pretty much everything I've worked on. It's been quite a lot. It has been taxing on my brain. It hurts. Ouchie. So, time to do a update on where we're at with groups and objects and all that sort of thing. So, if I place an object, the next free group is 1104, so we've got 1,103 groups, and that's just for the layout. It's mental. You've got a maximum of 10,000 groups. I'm over 10% of that. That's nuts. And not only that, if we look at the objects, I'm almost at 19,000 objects. Now, if you didn't know, the random Gauntlet contest has a maximum limit of 100,000 objects, which is absolutely crazy because I'm making a quadrillion levels in one, basically. So for it to have a lower number being 100,000, this is almost 20,000 just on the layout alone. So I need to have the deco be done in around 80,000 objects, which is going to be quite tricky. So we'll see how that ends up. Now for everyone's favorite part of the level, figuring out how many actual combinations of level there are. So essentially, to calculate how many different possibilities there are, I'm taking each section and timesing it by each section. But now that we've got two different endings, I have to times it by even more things. Right, so let's get into it. So to calculate the randomness, first we take the amount of parts, which is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and we have that to the power of how many different sections there are. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. And now we do it for path X and ending E. So for path X, there's 1, 2, 3, 4, and we do that to the power of 1, 2, 3, 4. And then we do that for this section here, which is 1, 2, 3 to the power of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And then for ending E, there's 1, 2, 3, 4 parts, and we do that to the power of 1, 2, 3, 4. And then basically we add path X again, all the randomness, but then instead we times it by path F, which is this one over here, which is only 2 to the power of 4. So it's a lot smaller, but it's worth something. And then we add everything again for group Y. So I think you're beginning to tell how ridiculous this level is. So of course, for this part, we have 5 to the power of 8. And then for path Y, there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 to the power of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. And then times that by the new part, which is 1, 2, 3, 4 to the power of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And then we times that by group E, of course, which is 4 to the power of 4. And then we add that all again, but with path F instead. And then finally, we do all this all over again for path Z, which of course is 5 to the power of 8. And then we times that by 1, 2, 3, 4 to the power of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. Then times that by 1, 2, 3 to the power of 1, 2, 3. Then of course times that by ending E, and then add that all over again with path F. And in total, we get a total level combination of 182 quadrillion, 52 trillion, 238 billion, 400 million. So that's how many different level combinations are in this single level alone. God, that's a lot of work. But anyways, that is it for this episode. Hopefully next week we'll get onto some design, do some cool things there. And I've listened to you guys. In the last video, I asked if you guys wanted to see random outcomes for each of the different paths. And I agree. I think it'd be pretty cool for you guys to see firsthand how the level will kind of play once it's all put together. So I'm going to have path X, Y, and Z as their own different showcases, with E and F also put on the end of those. And that should be it. If you like the video, don't forget to like, subscribe, leave me comments down below from the things I've asked in the rest of this video, because oh my god, I need help making this level. This is ridiculous. It is driving me crazy. And I will see you in the next one. Goodbye.